Hey, everybody, welcome to Paths of the Brush. This is our finale episode for season 3, and we have a real special guest with us today to talk about all things Gen Con and beyond. Let's bring him on. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. We are so honored to have you here today, and we have lots of questions for you. So we hope we don't stump you because I even have maybe some trivia.
Wait, whoa. You said questions for me. I thought I'm here to paint. Am I supposed to be able to talk and paint at the same time?
The answer to that is yes, but we don't have to do a lot of painting because, we're just happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
So for everybody that is watching, obviously, you know Peter from Peter versus the Machine, right here on Gen Con TV. And it's an amazing show where he takes on different types of games. Could you tell us more about that, Peter?
Yeah, so Peter versus Machine is Monday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And I play mostly Sid Meier's Civilization video game. So play against AIs for the most part. And yeah.
Very cool. Today, though, yes, I know we're going to be asking lots of questions and talking, but we are painting. Peter, what is that I see on your table?
Yes, this is a Mayan calendar from the game Zolkin, which is a board game that has a bunch of gears in the game. And there's some other ones you can see off to the side here. And these gears have a really nice elaborate design on them. You can't see them. They're just kind of an ugly gray color. And so within the ranks of people that like the game Zolkin, it's kind of a thing that people take these gears and paint them up. So I thought I would try that because I'm not like a super experienced miniatures painting. And I thought, well, painting a big flat gear seems a lot easier than painting, a Balrog or something.
Well, absolutely. And I think what you're going to find is there's a lot of opportunity here to try some techniques that you may not have ever used before, like dry brushing, because of those nice raised edges on the calendar board. On the gear there, you can definitely dry brush to give it a pop off of its other colors. It's gonna be a lot of fun to see how it turns out.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
And of course we have Mark and Will with us as always, ladies and gentlemen. Mark and Will, what are you guys painting today?
I'm working on the Arena of the Undead Horde. Horde.
Nice.
Games.
Yeah, awesome.
And then I got a zombie beholder. Behold the zombie beholder. So I did a lot of base tones. I just did some browns, yellows in the mouth, little pink, yellow eyes, and then I'm gonna go get it some zombie drippy flesh stuff. So remember a couple episodes back, did this little beholder here, which was fun.
Yeah.
And so keeping with that, and then I've got a little Spectre and his little friends hanging out there. So
sweet.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm gonna try to finish up at least the King of My Oceans for my homebrew game that is for the kids campaign that we do here for the Hoplite Heroes. And it's like a sperm whale in armor. It's pretty crazy. But he is the Lord of the Seas in my world. And then he has his own little like henchman as well. So we've got this like humpback whale who's like the muscle. And we've also got this walrus who's kind of like very tribal in his presentation. And I like the shark helmet here, and then he also has a shark cod piece, which is kind of funny. But I think these are, and I have a fourth one, but it's a killer whale, and I haven't even put any paint on them yet. But for the kids, it's gonna be fun to have them go like you gotta fight these guys or work with them in some capacity, so it'll be fun. But we got to get back to talking about Gen Con. It is a week away.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Rick. Way to remind me. Just as if I wasn't nervous enough being on this show with you, painting and talking, and and Gen Con prep. Oh,
right. Now there's a ticking clock.
Yeah,
right.
right.
So
yes.
So Peter, with Gen Con coming up and the celebration of the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, Gen Con TV has had a lot of opportunities to bring forth some great content focusing on that. What are some of the shows that you're really excited that have been broadcasting, and can you tell us about anything we may experience on Gen Con TV during Gen Con itself?
Right. So I do my day job, if you will, my hobby is that I run Gen Con TV. That I invited you to Gen Con TV, and you've been doing this great show for us. And um but I only do that the 361 days outside of show in Indianapolis. So what's happening on Gen Con TV during the show?
Hmm.
I'm not really sure. I know a couple of our producers are you guys doing anything during the show?
We are not, outside of going and supporting the Gen Con TV booth
Yeah.
and
Oh,
promoting
good.
the
Good.
channel and this
Yeah.
programming.
Well, thank you for that. I know that Ram, I think, is running
Mhm.
an event on Gen Con TV during the show, and I think that Sarah's Table, Roll with
Nice.
Ram Alternus. Um,
Mhm.
if there's anything more than that, I don't know. So, but there's a whole bunch of other streamers, like big
Right.
names in streaming. I just don't know who off the top of my head.
Okay.
I do know that on 1 week from today, on Wednesday, the day before Gen Con officially opens,
Mhm.
I'm going to be doing a rerun of the Talking Heads portion of all the streams that we did to celebrate Dungeons and Dragons
Nice.
back in June, May,
Mhm.
June time frame. So we did a series of 6 shows where I had in my studio here in Seattle, I had people like Jonathan Tweet and Luke Gygax and Rob Hainso and Mike Merles and Dave Zeb Cook. I mean, can you believe it?
Bring us Thaco.
Not only is he still alive, he is a damn good dungeon master. I mean,
He is.
He
Yeah.
is. Wow. It was like a master class in DMing, just watching
Yeah.
some of these guys. And John Peterson. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm going to replay those on
Right.
Wednesday.
Nice. So I got to tell the story of how I actually met Zeb.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
so I was
I
working.
mean, is it okay to start painting now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was talking. I was at a. I used to work for Alliance Game Distributors and Diamond Comic Distributors, and I lived in the Baltimore area. And during that time, Zeb was also living in the Baltimore area, working on Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
Right. And so I went to a meadery to do Adventurers League, and they asked me if I would run a table because they had so many people show up. And I was like, absolutely. So I go to this table and I introduce myself, and everybody's introducing themselves and their characters, and we go around the table, and everybody's playing a dang bard. It was the craziest thing. And we get to the last guy, this elderly gentleman, and I don't want to say too old, but he's older than me.
He's
And
older than me, too. I mean, that's pretty freaking old.
And he goes, yeah, my name's Zeb, and I'm playing a dwarf bard. I was like, Zeb, cool, like Zeb Cook from second edition D&D. And he's like, exactly like that. I was like, holy crap, you are Zeb Cook, and I'm about to DM for you. And we had a great time. And then he came onto a show that I used to do called Building Character, where we take, and he had never actually built a 5th edition character before. So he would just get a pre-gen for the Adventurers League nights. And so he came on the show and we built a dwarven fighter.
Nice.
And it was a super fun time. And then he was, while we were both living there, we'd go on these like deli tours around the New Year. He'd take a whole group of people and we'd do these deli tours. It was super cool.
Oh, wow.
He's a great guy.
He
That
is
sounds
a
like
great
good
guy.
friend to have.
Yeah, he's just a really, really great guy. I really enjoy it because he's so quiet and so understated that he didn't really. I mean, he was a good talker during the Talking Heads portion, but really smart, good comments and stuff. But man, he came alive when he DM'd. Like when he DM'd, all of a sudden the voices come out and the little, certain amount of, the type of level of acting you do as a dungeon master. It's all descriptions and everything is like pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's good. It's wild, and you've had the opportunity also, like you said, you had Mike Merles and Luke Gygax on. When it comes to the legacy of what Dungeons and Dragons is, how do you feel about knowing that you're part of that huge legacy? Because there was that time before when you had WotC and before you took on TSR that there was a lot of turmoil and the potential of would that continue on. And you basically, in my opinion, and probably many others, saved it from itself.
Well, thank you. That's very gracious of you. I'm proud of the the role I got to play and the opportunity to do what I did. I certainly think that Dungeons and Dragons would still be with us in some way if it wasn't for me. I'd like to think that maybe this was the best scenario. I would hope so. And so, yeah, I'm very, very proud of it.
Yeah.
What a great opportunity it was to
Yeah.
buy TSR.
Yeah. To bring it home.
Well, we'll bring it to my home,
Yeah.
and hopefully, and eventually it becomes their home too. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
And you were recently, well, I can't say recently. I think it was pre-pandemic, maybe a little bit in the pandemic, or just as everyone was coming out of it, part of a little documentary film by Seth Polanski and his wife and Brian.
Yeah, and Kelly
Uh,
Slagle and Brian
yeah,
Stillman.
yeah,
Yes, Igniting the Spark. It's a
yeah,
documentary that they are still editing. I think they've got
yeah.
all the full. I think they're done filming.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I saw a preview of part of it.
Mm-hmm.
They did a partial screening of like the first and third acts or something like that
Right.
at Luca last year, and
Okay.
it was really well done. I was really impressed. It's going
I
to be a great film.
It is going to be great, and the parts of it that I have seen really floored me when you pull out your prototypes of a certain card game. I was like, I was floored at seeing those and knowing that they even exist. How cool is that?
For Magic the Gathering.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, the prototypes you're talking about, like the playtest cards
Right.
that Richard made. He did a great job. I mean, Richard, I'm again so lucky to have been in the right place at the right time, to have met Richard Garfield, and for him to design, the best or second best game in the history of the world. I mean, you can debate, is it D&D or is it Magic? We can quibble, but certainly one of the best two games in the history of the world. And invite me to publish it. Like, wow, what a dream.
And then how it's like grown as a phenomenon. I mean, it's 32 years now? 31 years. 31.
Let's see. This is 2024. I might have to take off my shoes to count that far. Came out in 93. So yeah, this Gen Con will be 31 years.
It's for any game to stand a test of time like that, it definitely shows that as far as like pop culture goes, it's a foundation piece. I would think, and having had the opportunity to work with Richard Garfield on that and bring it to market, what was the biggest hurdle for you as a publisher with the initial production of that game?
Well, money's always a hurdle. It certainly was for us, but that's kind of a boring answer in a way. I mean, it's always the hurdle. I think from a production standpoint, it was figuring out how to get Magic cards produced. Like it's a because what we were doing has never been done before, which is cards that are collector cards.
Right.
They're also played in a game format, and so collector cards like baseball cards, which were there weren't you have to remember that Magic was the first game that had this idea of trading cards and building decks. We were doing so many things that were revolutionary. The idea that there are thousands of cards and they're randomly sold, and you pick which cards go in your deck, and your friend picks which cards go in their deck, and all these things. And you can change cards, take them in. I mean, all this was revolutionary, never been done before. So there was a conceptual hurdle of just like, how do you make a game like that? How do you organize a game like that? Like, like the idea of having a starter deck and booster packs, and are the starter deck also random cards, or is it fixed cards? And just so many things that we would just take for granted. But the real struggle was figuring out how to print them, because we wanted quality cards that are comparable to like casino cards, right? Really nice quality, laminated, sturdy yet flexible, playing cards. And but they had to be sorted and randomized like baseball cards, which
Mhm.
now have been real premium baseball cards for sure, and don't want to dog
Right.
that, but for the most part, they're not shuffleable cards
Mhm.
that are designed to be used playing a game. So we were trying to do something that never been done, and this ended up being a really hard, and also we're not also realizing that we might be sitting on golden goose here, or golden
Right.
egg, sitting on the. I think we're sitting on the golden egg.
Yeah.
And the game is the golden goose. Let's get the analogy straight. I mean, so you're reluctant in that situation to call up Tops or Upper Deck
Right.
and say, "Hey, can you help us print a game that does this?"
Right.
Because you're gonna, you know. So yeah, figuring out how to print that, and the answer came from meeting Luke Mertens at Carta Monday,
Oh,
and
okay.
he solved that problem for us. And because they were a playing card company that
Mhm.
had made a small foray into trading cards, so they had bought the sorting equipment to sort trading cards, and it was collecting dust in the back of their factory.
Okay. Nice.
uh,
And when did you know? I mean, like you said, you felt like you were the goose on the golden egg of potential like amazement here that was gonna just break the gaming industry. What was it that was the thing that told you, yep, we did that?
yeah, I mean, it's of course seeing the reception. It's, I mean, any game will
Hmm.
find some fans, but how many fans, and just
Right.
seeing how the game caught on so quickly. And I
Yep.
think especially we released it at Gen Con in 1993,
Hmm.
and so that release at Gen Con was magical. I mean,
Right.
you're at first you're selling people card, this game, and it's hard. It's always hard to get people into it. Magic was
Mhm.
before anybody knew what Magic was,
Right.
because there were obstacles like, oh, you have to have my own. I have to have my own deck. Like, oh, we can't just
Right.
have one common deck. And this is a game that doesn't include all the pieces,
Right.
and stuff. But they'd look at the art. Art always draw them in, and they
Mhm.
would, it was weird enough and different enough that people were like, okay, I'll
Mhm.
try it. And then
Okay.
they come back the next day. What are these booster packs you were talking about? And then they come back the next day. Can I just buy a whole box of those booster packs?
Nice. That's freaking awesome.
So
I
it
was,
was at the end of that show that
yeah.
I went home and quit my day job at Boeing.
Dang. Okay.
Awesome.
That's amazing. I was stationed in Hawaii at Kaneohe Marine Corps Base when Magic was released, and we didn't know anything out there because they were so detached from like everything
Right.
going on in CONUS and the continental United States as far as the game went. So when we were reading the rules and it would say destroy target card, we did. Yeah, until we learned not to do that.
I used to have a Mox.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we were just a bunch of silly kids at the comic and collectible stores out there. Other Realms and downtown Honolulu was where we all bought our first packs and stuff. And
Wow.
I think we knew the minute we opened those cards and started building our decks that we were like, I think we're going to be playing this when we're in our 50s.
Yeah. Well,
And here
and
we
we kept
are.
seeing hints like when Richard was he didn't live here in Seattle with all of us. He was going to
Right.
school at University of Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
And when he sent over a big envelope full of playtest cards, those prototypes you talked about, that were
Yeah.
just cut up on card stock, hand drawn, or photograph, or like stuff photocopied from other magazines or whatever,
They're
like
so good.
like the Monster Manual, etc. So we got all these decks, like 20 decks in an envelope, and passed them out in the office
Yeah.
being my house.
Right.
And then everybody just started playing them, and we couldn't get any work done because everybody was just playing them all the time.
That's so good. Yeah, I know I got talked to a few times from my superior officers in the military to be like, Ankney, you can't be playing that right now. I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't have any patience.
Yeah, I forgot to get a little water. I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, good.
What an opportunity to learn. Holy cow. There's
Right.
some amazing trivia.
Happy birthday. Hey, thanks, Monty's Menace. Thank you for the birthday wishes.
And Lore Master Sky says hi, all.
Hello,
Hello.
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 And for everybody watching, Peter will be right back. If you have any questions for Peter, please drop them in the chat. We'd love to pull some of your questions to give to him as well. So,
Yeah, and I apologize for ignoring anybody in chat. I really pride myself in trying to keep up with chat while I'm on stream, but this is stressful for me.
I'm sorry.
Doing bubblegum and walking down the street's tough, you know.
I got 2 cameras going on and I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do here and talk at the same time. And talk. That's the part you didn't warn me about. Although
I apologize.
obviously I knew that because I've watched the show. But
So,
it did so just kind of sneak up on me. Like, of course I'm supposed to talk while I'm on this show.
Right. Of course. So sticking with Magic for a few more minutes.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, Magic is one of those games that art is a huge part of its appeal. And you already mentioned, was it Lucca? That's the convention in
Italy.
In Italy, but there's another one in Pennsylvania that is very focused on the art world and a lot of Magic artists. I know that Seth goes there a lot as well.
I'm not familiar with it.
I can't recall it, but in your time working there and engaging with the artists and stuff, and I know every artist brings something different to the table, and they're all freaking amazing. But do you have any artists in particular that stick out to you that you're just like, this individual is one of the best and should be doing this for the rest of their lives? And they probably are, obviously.
I mean, I immediately fell in love with Anson Maddox and Mark Tadine, 2 of the earliest, original Magic artists, and just really enjoyed their work, and and that will always stick with me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think and Rob Alexander, I think he just had some amazing pieces. There's so Dan Fraser, Brian Snowdy.
There's so many good
Sandra
ones.
Everingham. I mean, there were so many good, excellent artists.
For sure. Now, do you own any of the original art pieces from, like, maybe some of your favorite cards?
Not anymore.
No.
I used to own a few pieces.
Okay.
But I sold most of my collectibles, in the during the pandemic, just so I wouldn't have to lay anybody off.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
That's really awesome.
Good on you.
Yeah. The one of the artists that I've always wanted to have an original piece from, and I actually have one, but it's not like one of his big paintings, is Larry Elmore.
Oh, yeah.
Uncle Larry's the best.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah, I think D&D art's in another. I was thinking Magic art too. I mean, D&D art. There's so many excellent D&D, and I am really a fan of the original 4 from the 80s. Jeff Easley,
Parkinson,
and Larry Elmore.
Brom, I think, was in there.
There's Brom. There's Clive Caldwell.
Yes.
Just
and
so many.
Is it Parkinson?
Keith Parkinson.
Keith Parkinson. Yeah. Those the bad boys of illustration.
They're so good.
Yep. But Larry being one of those individuals that does amazing like landscapes. Like, I have a Magic deck currently that every land is one that he did, because he did a bunch of lands during one of the sets.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, I was like, what? So I had to scoop them all up.
Oh, man.
But yeah, now twisting back to Dungeons and Dragons 50th anniversary, in its time and that it's been around, when did you first get introduced to Dungeons and Dragons?
I started playing D&D in 1978, and it wasn't. I didn't know anything about it. I just saw the blue box set on the counter of a hobby games, hobby store where I was in there shopping for war games. I was a big fan, still am.
Okay.
I still enjoy from time to time, those old Avalon Hill, SPI, Conflict style games with hex maps and cardboard chits you move around, or also historical miniatures. I have a huge historical miniatures collection.
Okay.
So yeah, I was in there and I had a war game in my hands, Atlantic Wall, which was a big box set war game of the sort of the final push into Germany from the Western Allies,
Right.
in World War II. And I saw this blue box set, and I had just finished reading The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. My brother gave them to me.
Nice.
And I had this fantasy bug. I had no idea what this game was about, but because it had a dragon on the cover, I bought it.
Perfect. That's awesome. And do you recall your first character? Because we all want to know.
Yeah, it was a fighter. I just rolled a fighter was my first character. His name was Arnon the Dragon Slayer.
Arnon. That's a cool name. That's a very cool name. Lore Master Ski in the chat says, I have an Eastleigh and an Elmore behind me as I watch. They're just prints, not original, but love the artists. That's awesome.
Yes. Hey, Lore Master Ski.
That is really awesome. So you've been subjected to the game for what 40 years then? Because that came out, the blue box I think came out in the 80s, early 80s.
I bought that in 78.
78.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. So the AD&D, I think the Monster Manual might have been out.
Okay.
I think the Monster Manual came out first.
Okay.
But the Player's Handbook and the DMG weren't out yet, I think. Somebody, of course, can look it up on Wikipedia and tell me if I got it wrong. But we don't do fact checking on this show, do we?
No.
Not when you're on.
Nope.
I've said so many things wrong on public interviews. You can't believe it.
As long as you're confident, it works, right? It's like it's all a confidence thing.
I remember we were talking about Magic. I was at War Games West retail store in 1993, and I was explaining that the great thing about the Sarah Angel was that you could, because it didn't tap when it attacked, you could attack with it to turn you summon it, which is totally incorrect.
Okay.
I got so much trouble from R&D on that.
Oh no, they're like it doesn't have haste and vigilance.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't have haste. It just had vigilance, I think, or whatever it is. We didn't have those key words back in those days.
So you quit your day job at Boeing.
Yeah.
Go full tilt on Wizard of the Coast. You then find another Rockstar game to bring to the American market soon after, I believe, right? Was it 5 or 6 years after Magic that a certain Japanese card game found its way?
Yeah, that's right. We brought Pokemon to America. We brought it out of Japan and took it to America, brought it to America, and then Europe and everywhere else too. At one point, by the time I sold, or by the time I left Hasbro, after we sold the company to Hasbro, we had the rights for Pokemon trading cards in all countries but Japan, and all languages except Japanese.
Wow,
that's wild.
And so, how did that conversation spawn, or was it? How did you find the game itself?
Well, I think some people that worked for me were obviously very big heroes in this, like Fukutaki and so on. For my part of the story was that I just kind of got this call one day. I'm sure it was all set up, but nobody really told me about it.
Okay.
So I got this call one day from Ishihara, who was like the main guy that runs Pokemon still to this day.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, we would like to come visit you in Seattle."
Okay.
I'm like, okay. I mean, sure. At that point, we were more like competitors. In fact, I remember when our Japanese distributor explained to us that Magic was no longer the #1 trading card game in Japan.
Whoa.
And we're like, what? You're kidding me. So, so Ishihara came out to Seattle, brought a big entourage, and was very, very flattering to us, especially Richard, deservedly,
Right.
and said, if it wasn't for Richard's genius and for the creation of Magic the Gathering, Pokemon wouldn't exist. Pokemon was definitely inspired by our work, and
Nice.
And would we like to be their partner in bringing it to America? And we're like, yeah, we love Pokemon. Suddenly, your feelings about it change dramatically.
Interesting how that happens.
Interesting how that. Oh, I can be a part of this thing. It's not just
Right.
competing against. I can be a part of it. Then
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was a great day.
It sounds like it was an amazing interaction and opportunity, and obviously it has done well for the trading card market, and just the community that it's built around it is also pretty. It's an exciting game.
We had the theory that Pokemon deserves that we all of us as a tabletop gaming industry owe a lot to Pokemon, that we more than we might realize, because Pokemon really has been a gateway drug to tabletop gaming and Magic. I think if you think of the entry points for our hobby, I think that Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Warhammer are probably the 3 biggest. I don't know if Yu-Gi-Oh anymore is also Duel Masters and so on, but the trading card games that target the anime, manga, younger generation, and for all the work that Games Workshop does in building their, what they used to call recruiting centers. It brings kids into what we do, and then eventually they learn about other games and move on. A lot of them do, right?
Right.
And become general hobbyists.
Absolutely. We see it even today here at the Hoplite Games, where we are broadcasting from my camera angles. That it's the younger generation, the 12 and unders, that really, that's the first place they want to find is, where's the Pokemon? I want to get the Pokemon. And then obviously we were like, well, do you want to learn how to play? No, I just want to catch them all. But after like their 7th time in with their parents, then they're like, yeah, I want to know how to play this.
Yeah, because they want to interact with it.
Yeah.
It's one thing to have the cards and hold them and look at them and have some mental fantasy going on, but it's another. But what do you actually do with your cards?
Absolutely.
Playing a game is great, and I think that Magic ends up owing a lot to Pokemon in the sense that I think Pokemon trains future Magic players.
Absolutely. Now you have done that. You bring on, you pick up TSR and bring that under your fold, and that's when we got 3rd edition, I believe, right?
Yep, that's right. We did. In 1997. It's harder and harder to remember the dates. We acquired TSR when they had some internal struggles and needed basically a bailout.
Yeah.
And that was, a great honor to be in the right place at the right time, to be able to do that, buy that company. And we did. I announced it the day that we bought it, the day the deal was done. We did an all hands meeting in Lake Geneva, and I said, if we're going to start working immediately on a 3rd edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right. And you got a great team that you brought together to work on that. One of my favorite designers, Bruce Cordell, was in that team, and I just think he's amazing. So.
Yeah, Bruce, very, very good guy, and very solid guy. And just a nice guy too,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, we had it was mostly TSR people, but I did include Jonathan Tweet, in on the team. I wanted to. Obviously, the TSR people had the most. The designers had the most experience with D&D as a property, and with designing for D&D.
Right.
With with everything about D&D. But I do think that we also at WotC had a more technical sort of game design approach. And I think that years of working on Magic and refining Magic, where the mechanics had to hold up to tournament play that was for money and stuff like that.
Right.
So I always thought that the two companies together were a great bringing together of design skill and narrative skill to get
absolutely
into one company, and so it was nice. It was really fun.
Yeah. The I'm just I this is where the talking and the painting can get a little, because when we're working on some fine detail pieces, all of us can get a little distracted. I'm like, okay, I'm working on this, I'm hearing this. I think that again, I was back in Hawaii when third edition came out.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I ask a painting question here?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm painting this gear in kind of a blue. Let's see if I can. And what's happening is it's just all sorts of smears and stuff like that. Is that something that drying and maybe a second coat would kind of address that, or am I using the wrong paint or what?
No, you're right. It will do that, and yes, a second coat will not hurt your paint there. Are you doing any thinning of the paint with water?
No.
You might want to do that.
Is that the normal thing that we do? Is thin paint with water?
It is actually, yeah. But
just use water, not my lemonade, right? Okay.
Yeah, that also
that
one of the
happens a lot.
Yeah, one of the hazards of painting. Which cup am I supposed to be rinsing my brush? I'm actually really excited. If we could, Peter, could you show us the very large dial that you were working on? And also a big thank you to Velociraptor for subscribing at tier 1. We appreciate that. Every bit helps. All right, so now we can see a lot of the detail in the design there. What were you thinking as far as to potentially bring it and pop it out more? Lighter brown, maybe a gray, and do a dry brush over those edges?
Yeah, well, I was hoping you would help me out with that. Actually,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, I was thinking black, but maybe black's not the right color for.
Maybe we'll do black first. If you have a black contrast, if not, thinning a black down to kind of get it to go and leach into the cracks, we'll give it a.
Well, let's not do black just because I said it. I mean, let me tell you what I got. I got all these Citadel colors. I've got this looks kind of like an orange sort of color. It's really hard to line up against the calendar, isn't it? And so let's see. That's a
what's it called?
It's called Citadel Color Layer. Oh, Squig Orange.
Squig Orange. Okay.
Yeah.
They have the greatest names.
Yeah.
And then there's Abaddon Black as a base color.
It's a great color. It's a great color.
Oh, and here I do have a contrast one. Wasn't even know. I was just looking at colors when I bought them. It's a contrast Hex Wraith Flame. I would call it green.
Okay. Well, we know that the Mayan calendar and a lot of Mesoamerican art had a lot of pop to it, right? I feel like. What do you guys think, Mark and Will? Do you think that green as
I also got base Hobgrot Hide, which is kind of a tannish color, and Xandri Dust. These are both base colors. That is a little bit more of a stone sort of clay color, I think.
I'm thinking
dust would be really good to dry brush over those ridges to make
Agreed.
those pop out.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay, great. Is it now? Does this need to dry longer to do that, or can we try it now?
I think you should be able to try it now. And what brushes are you currently using?
Okay, I got kind of a wide brush that I'm using. It says dry. Was I supposed to only use for dry? I don't know. I was using that for just because it was bigger just to get the color down.
Yep, and that's perfect. That's perfect. So if you have some paper towel
for dry brushing, I also have a thinner brush for
no
stuff.
for dry brushing, you're going to want to use that thicker dry, the one that actually says dry brush on it.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a paper towel. I can wipe this off.
Yep. So what you're going to do is clean off the brush, and then you're going to take that that lighter tan, that Zandri, the sand one, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Zandri dust.
Zandri dust.
Zandri dust is in here. Okay.
Yeah, and then you're going to dip the brush in that.
Yeah.
Get a nice amount on it, but then you're going to take that brush and you're going to you're going to wipe it off on the paper towel. I know it sounds counterproductive, but you're going to wipe it off you feel like you're almost out of paint, like it's already been all taken off, and then you're just going to lightly brush it against the grain of the higher ridges on the circular platform there on the dial, and that's going to just allow that paint to sit on the high edges and give it that pop that we all know is about to happen.
Yeah, one thing to do as well, you might be able to put the paper towel on the table and just kind of like you do if you're like stenciling something. And my mom used to stencil back in the day, and they had a nice firm brush that you would like really get the excess off onto the dry paper towel below, and then once it feels like there's not a lot on there, then you can just like Rick said, just brush it on.
Yep, against the grain of the ridges.
Well, now, okay, so you say against the grain, but like there's, I mean, this design is in all directions. It's very
right. So going from don't go in this direction. Just go like from outside to in, or inside out, or inside out, whichever direction is more comfortable for you along those edges.
This is always an exciting moment. Is like when somebody's dry brushing for the first time. You don't think they're doing anything, and then all of a sudden you're like, "I'm a wizard! I'm a wizard!"
Well, I've been a wizard before.
That's true. You have been a wizard.
That's true.
Oh.
So while you're getting prepped for that, let's talk a little bit about the programming here on the channel. So on what do we got here? Oh, did they change? Oh, there it is. So Mondays, we've got Peter versus the Machine. We've already kind of touched on that. Dress to Quest.
Yes. Okay, so this is one of our RPG shows. I think that is, RPG shows are pretty popular for streaming, and we have a couple of them. And so this is they play D&D, and it started. Eric Wahlberg, if you know him, is like the guy that's been behind it, organizing it. He's gone through a couple of different DMs, and they were in the early days. They were really emphasizing cosplay. So the Dress to Quest was cosplay plus D&D, and they still do that some, but I think that they've. But yeah, they still do that. So it's playing D&D and doing costuming, and they're very good storytellers. It's an excellent world to sink into and story to follow.
Nice. And then on Tuesdays we have Indie by Night. I'm a big fan of Vampire the Masquerade, and so this is pretty cool. Are they actually in Indiana?
Yes, they are.
Nice.
So. Yeah, Josh lives in Indy, and he runs an Indie by Night vampire game. I mean, how could you say no to that, right?
You can't. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then obviously Wednesday we have us, and then following us is Actor Roki,
right? Which I'm going to be doing tonight.
Nice.
So Actor Roki, we stream RPGs, but our shtick is that once in a while we pick some moment that showed up at the game table, and we write a screenplay adaptation of that beat.
Nice.
Somewhere usually in a 10 to 20 page script, and then we film actors acting it out, or sometimes the same people who were players, but we put them in costume and give them a script, and they make that commute from a role player to actor, and then we do it all against a green screen. And then we drop in art and special effects and audio, and make a movie. So that takes a lot of work. We don't do that nearly as much as we do role playing. We used to try and capture every moment, but it was just way too crazy. And And so we'll film it and turn it into a movie. And once in a while, like tonight, which only happens like once every 3 months, we have what we call movie night, where we play for the first time for the public this movie adaptation of a moment in an RPG.
That's freaking awesome. You've also done some of this at different conventions like Gamehole and GaryCon, correct?
Yes, we have. We've done what we call Acroki Slam events at conventions, but it's difficult to make it work in a convention time period. So we've kind of backed off that.
Okay. Yeah, I recall photographing and doing some TikTok videos while you guys were producing one at Gamehole Con, because I was running Gameholes like when they were first getting on TikTok, helping them out, getting set up. And I was like, this is freaking awesome. And I believe you had Lisa Teague was on it. I think she's on there a lot, isn't she?
Lisa, not a lot, but she's been on a few times. It's mostly, I mean, we film for Actoroki, the RPG filming is in studio. It's not by Zoom.
Okay.
So we're pretty limited for 95% of what we do. We're limited by people who live in Seattle.
Right. Okay. And then on Thursdays, we have Blood on the Clock Tower, which is a social deduction game, I believe.
Yeah, it's like Werewolf or Mafia, that game on steroids. I mean, like it's a crazy. If you like that sort of game, you've gotta play Blood on the Clock or watch it sometime because they have hundreds of roles and really complex. Yeah, it's crazy. It's it's a very well attended show.
Nice. That one also. What's funny about that game is I recently sold a copy of it here, and I did not realize it was a game that literally will give you a hernia. It is a big box. It's heavy. It's got so much stuff. And then when I saw that it became one of the programs, I was like, okay, this is super cool. And then roll with Rem Alternus, who I think does everything in this industry at this point.
Yeah,
she is everywhere.
She's busy. She is busy. So it is. She does interviews. And she is kind of I don't know. I think of her as the Shadowrun queen. Like the queen of Shadowrun on the internet. I hope this is not mischaracterizing it, but I think of her as an example of like someone who's like, I'm just going to focus on what looks like a kind of a small little niche in terms of role playing. Shadowrun's a great game. It's been around a long time, but it's not one of the, it's not big, right?
Sure.
But when you dominate and you become the place where everybody that loves that, it's a sizable market. There's a lot of people, out of millions of people that role play, there's thousands of people that love Shadowrun. So, or tens of thousands, right? So she really has that, has a great following there.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that don't know, she also works very heavily with Catalyst Game Labs as the director of marketing or marketing manager.
Right.
Does a lot for the community around Shadowrun and BattleTech and all the other wonderful things that obviously Catalyst is doing. And then on Fridays, it all comes together with Table Takes, which is your version of the this week in gaming news.
It's our Table Takes is our tabletop gaming news show, and we're it's every Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And I'm on there with Javion Smith and Noir Enigma and Bonsai Baby, 3 amazing streamers that I just always have so much fun with whenever when we get together, and we just talk about what's new in tabletop games.
Such good personalities on that show. You guys are. I was watching one of the latest episodes, and you guys just jive so well and always cracking fun jokes and such good energy. I wish I could get some good energy on this show. No, it's leading into that, this is a little known secret. It's Rick's birthday today.
It is. That's correct.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey! None of that. We don't need to sing. We don't. This isn't a karaoke hour here. But I appreciate it.
Hey, Shipley CGM, thank you.
It's funny as people ask me what I was going to do for my birthday. I said I've been able to get possibly the coolest gift I could ever get. And again, I'm not trying to like boost your ego, Peter, but it was being able to have this opportunity to have you on the show and
thank
everything.
you.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah. So you're dry brushing, you're doing it.
I
How's
know
it look?
I'm doing it.
How's it look?
It looks pretty cool. I mean, like it does make it pop.
Mhm.
It does. I do have some places where I think I may have had too much paint. It's kind of down in
Mhm.
places, but
Sure.
this is also like I picture like, oh, this is a Mayan calendar that you find in the
Mhm.
deep in the jungle somewhere,
Right.
and it's got some moss on it, and
An artifact.
yeah, it's like an artifact. So
Yeah, and the fact that like when we first started the episode, you had mentioned that this isn't something that you normally do, and you have a very little experience in this space. Everything you're doing is a new experience in this, and hopefully it'll get you started back or really heavily into the path of the brush, because we love having people that are new to this space discover that it's good for them and it's fun for that they enjoy the process of spending a little time outside their space and not in their head so much and just putting art on these models. It's super fun.
Yeah, I just sort of recently discovered that there's this whole clique of people that like it's like miniatures painting, but it's board game components painting. And sometimes it is miniatures, right? Sometimes the board game will have figures and stuff like that. And I don't know, that seems much more reasonable than trying to build up a Napoleonics army or something.
For sure, for sure. One of the games right now, I think that we're going to try to bring to the table in season 4 is going to be Fireside Games Castle Panic Deluxe, which has all the deluxe model components to the game with actual miniatures for the monsters that are attacking your tower, your castle, and the castle itself also has model pieces. So that's a great example of what you're saying is there are so many games that have these model and toy components that need to be painted. They all do.
Yeah.
It's super fun. All right. So finally, on Fridays after table takes and later on in the afternoon, evening is Sarah's table.
Oh, yeah. So this is my dear friend, Sarah Moore.
Mhm.
And she is just a delight. She's smart. She's clever. She's imaginative. And she's a great role player and a great actor. And she runs and whereas Actoroki, we play D&D or Burning Wheel, Dress a Quest plays D&D, Indie by Night plays the World of Darkness games. Sarah likes to focus on sort of small indie games, and so she jumps around to a lot of different indie games, and especially The Crowned because she helped write it, and with Damon Van He, and so that gets a little extra love, I think, on her show. But yeah, and so she'll and a lot of the games that she runs are targeted at more of a younger, the Gen Z, more crowd that really have a little bit different of a taste than maybe where some of our like what D&D was like back in the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. It's all good. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about role-playing games. It's a big tent, and you can with a lot of different things that you can do with role-playing.
Absolutely.
Stuff. She has a delightful show.
Yeah, and she's a very good game master. I was on one of her episodes where we played The Excellence by Ninth Level Games. Which is super fun using the polymorph system. And The Excellence is, if you've ever watched Adventurers League, this is for everybody watching. And also big shout out to Shipley CGM. It's good to see you, and thanks for the birthday wishes. But also thank you for subscribing. We appreciate that. And in that one, if you ever watch Adventure Time, they have all the different types of princesses, Bubblegum Princess, all these different ones. But that's a game where you play these different troped princesses. Like you could be the hair metal princess, the professional wrestling princess, and I played the maple syrup princess because I don't know if you know this, Peter, but I I like me some maple syrup.
I love maple syrup. I love maple syrup. I've played the Excellence before, and with Sarah DMing, and I don't remember what I was the princess of, but yeah, there was that idea of being a princess thing. But I did dress and drag for the event, so that was fun.
That's hilarious.
So yeah. there are plausibly deniable photos out there somewhere on the internet, I'm sure.
That's hilarious.
Blackmail medicine.
That's amazing. Yeah, so that's so for everybody watching, that is the list of all the different shows that are currently on Gen Con TV. Obviously, next week during Gen Con itself, there's going to be a lot more content being pushed to the platform on the main stage and all the other streaming events that they have going on. But during the time between, these are the shows, and I'm guessing or thinking that maybe some more are on the horizon.
Yeah, it's we're always interested now. So in producers that that want to stream on Gen Con TV, if somebody is able to put together a good show, and wants to be on Gen Con TV, let me know if you know of anybody that wants them, because we need content. Are the ideal producers for us, or somebody who wants to do a show but doesn't necessarily want all the hassle of trying to run and build a Twitch channel, right? Which is a whole nother lake. So, we've got a great Twitch channel with that, and we've got social media coverage with Gen Con. We have access to Gen Con social media, so we can promote a show and get decent viewership numbers. So that's so it's kind of I mean, we've got a nice slot now, so I'm not like out there actively pimping like, hey, come be a producer, but I'm always open to good ideas or somebody wants to do a show on my channel.
You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Sounds like a Shark Tank opportunity. We'll just call the show The Pitch, and you have to pitch your idea. No, that's
right.
I was thinking about a tank full of sharks.
Oh, that would be fun as well.
Playing games.
So it is that time in our show where we give thanks to our sponsors. Obviously, Gen Con TV and Gen Con for allowing us to be here. Peter, thank you so much for approaching me at Gamma and a couple years ago and saying, hey, I didn't know you did all this stuff. Would you like to do this? Yes. So thank you to Gen Con and Gen Con TV. Big thank you to the Army Painter who provides the paints that we use, Will, Mark, and I. So with the Army Painter Fanatic, which is one of their newest brands and lines that are out there at your local game store. So if you don't aren't already using it, go to your friendly local game store, and hopefully they're carrying it, and you can put it in your toolbox and start using it. It's amazing, and we actually love using it. So thank you to the Army Painter. Also to Game Envy, the makers of our fun little cups here that we use to clean our brushes and make a mess and try to avoid drinking from. And also the Phalanx Synth brushes that we use to paint our little minis or ginormous ones that sometimes find their way to our table. And then Tabletop Gurus, which is Mark's news and the reviews channel for the gaming space. And to Hoplite Games here in Lansing, Michigan, where I am sitting. So it's kind of funny, Peter. We've got Star Wars RPG, Star Wars Shatterpoint, Flesh and Blood. Some people are painting miniatures out in the play area here, and the local Comic-Con just did their show about a week ago, and all the volunteers are here as a like a meeting. So we are a pack house.
But it sounds quiet. You must be in like a soundproof booth or something there.
I am not.
You just have a directional mic, a good directional mic.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. I'm looking right at the volunteers over at one of the game tables, going over like after action. It's kind of neat.
And they're not on the other side of a window or anything?
No, just I have some shelves between us to dampen some of the sound. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's wild.
And a tank full of sharks.
And a tank full of sharks.
Yeah.
With lasers on their heads. Yeah.
And also, Peter, I wasn't sure if you knew this, but are you aware that in 1994 we had a really our world was split on timelines? Are you familiar with this?
1994.
Yeah.
Tell me. What?
Yeah,
I mean, I know what I was doing in 1994. What were you doing in 1994?
Well, I was giving thanks to a very important person, and so in 1994, a runaway planet from outer space collided between the Earth and the Moon, unleashing cosmic destruction. Right, splitting our timelines, and in their timeline, it's already 2,000 years later. The Earth is reborn, and a strange new world full of savagery, social, sorcery, and super science. And obviously, one man breaks his bonds of his chains and to fight evil using his courage, his strength, his companions Ukla the Mock and Princess Ariel to fight the forces of evil. And he also has this wonderful thing called his sun sword. I don't know if you know who that guy is, but we like to give thanks to Thundar the Barbarian every week.
Perfect.
So yeah, Thundar, and we got a nice picture of Thundar the Barbarian.
I don't know how this trope happened, but it's now it's ever. We can't get away from it.
Can't get away. Nope.
So Will and I got Rick his T-shirt he's wearing today.
Yep. Thank you guys.
For his birthday.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thundar clock all the time for you.
Thundar clock. No, Peter. Thundar is my favorite IP of all time.
That's great.
Yeah. If anybody out there knows how I can get a hold of the
Rick,
the rights, I want it.
Rick, you are a geek.
I love you too, Peter.
You're a geek.
Bring in the chickens.
How did I end up here?
A little poking, a little prodding, and my fabulous sun sword.
Is that a Pokemon joke?
Oh.
Maybe.
All right, so let's take a look at where everybody's at with their pieces, and because we're an hour into this wonderful program, but let's take a look at that undead.
The undead horde.
Oh my God, that looks so nice.
I ended up doing some wet paint where I was mixing a little bit of red. Let me get them over here. It was red and yellow, but wet. So wet on wet, and so I want them to be this drippy mass of goodness. And then
wow,
able to do that. Did a little cream in the eye, did a little varnish. So everything's still wet and drippy right now, but
good job, buddy.
And kind of doing some highlights that way. And then I did a little. It's like kind of a green wash when it's all. So it's kind of a goo. So I don't know if this is the best thing I've ever done or the most amateur looking thing ever, but it's fun because it was wet on wet, right?
All right, so
wet
blending.
Wet blending, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Nice.
And how about the undead horde there, Will?
Here's the big parts. You got the crazy centaurs and like the catapult bone launching guys. Starting to put some colors to pick out some pieces. And a big crazy bone doggy. With bone dreadlocks.
Centaurs. Oh my God.
Put that guy back up. Let me solo it there for you.
With that guy?
This little guy?
This little cutie patootie with his bone dreadlocks.
Nice.
That is sick.
Good job, buddy. It comes all kind of like with a little base already on those, which are neat.
All right, Peter, let's take a look at yours. What's
okay? So I got a there's one section here where I got a little carried away. I'm dry brushing, but I didn't get enough off the brush, and so it's kind of sticks out a little bit.
Happy little mistakes, you know.
We'll fix it in post.
Yeah.
Could you push it up closer to the camera?
Yeah. Let's see. Right
oh
there.
yeah. So that actually looks pretty cool. It's almost like they may have, like, if you were to think about, like you said, it's like an artifact piece that has been found. The brown is the paint of the original, and then this gray is where it's chipped away, maybe.
Yeah.
It gives it some verisimilitude.
Yeah, I kind of like it too. I just kind of like, but if I didn't, what would I do? You just kind of got to live with it,
you just paint. You just take that brown paint you used, and you paint right in those little areas where you feel like it is falling off of the edges into the main part. It's just wonderful thing about paint. It layers.
Yeah, can always dry brush back that base color and then go back again and.
For sure.
It almost looks like a delicious pumpkin pie right now.
Oh my gosh!
I don't know if it's dinner time. What's going on with me? But
it definitely causes the design,
Mhm.
to be more obvious, right? Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's got that terracotta vibe too, or kind of like
Yeah.
clay, which is
Yeah.
really neat. Seems authentic.
Yeah.
That's a
Very
really
cool.
versatile color. I mentioned it before, but I love terracotta. You can do so much with it.
Agreed.
Terracotta, or you mean this Zandri dust?
Well, the terracotta is a great starting point because it goes up and down. Really, like it's brown, but brown is orange, so you can make it more orange or less.
Oh,
So it gives you a lot of, or you can tint it red, and so it's just really wiggly. It's very versatile.
huh.
Rick, what do you got cooking?
Well, I did the base on there, and then I dry brush grays over the rocks,
Oh, it looks great.
so they popped out a little bit more. And now
Nice.
I'm just going through doing a little bit of detail on the eyes of the sperm whale here, and then I'm going to do some edging on the armor with some brighter silver, so it just pops a little bit more. And then I'm going to think that this particular one will be done because this model is going to have hands on it a lot with the kids. They're all going to want to touch it and move it out around the table while they're either being chased by it or working with it or whatever they decide. I'll have all the plans in my head and written down as to what I want them to do, but they're 12, between the ages of 9 and 16. Most of them are 12, so it's just gonna be chaos.
That's gonna be awesome.
So maybe talking technique just a little bit there. Then, if you've got a piece that is going to get a lot of hands on it, like is there a particular kind of varnish that you prefer to help protect the paint job?
That's a great question, and you know the answer, Will. Dang it. but yes, the answer to that question is if you do have a model that's going to find itself being touched and manipulated a lot by yourself or others on the table, I like using a matte varnish, which is not going to show it's not going to gloss it up more than it may already be from the paint, and that'll protect it. And it's Army Painter obviously has a rattle can that you can do, and you just spray it over it, and it kind of seals it and prevents chipping and wear on the paint. It's not a permanent fix, but it does give you a lot longer lasting play with the models. So
extra skin, yeah, for sure. And you
Yeah.
can put it in an airbrush as well, or
Mhm.
they got the paint on guys as
Mhm.
well, which is nice.
Yeah.
And, once you put that matte on, you can go back and gloss up like the eyeballs, or if you have like a
Mhm.
real shiny blade or something like that, or armor.
Yeah.
Which turns out really neat.
Especially with what you're working with, Peter, that might be an option once you complete all of the dials, and because they're going to be, when you play that game, you're spinning those dials a lot to manipulate the board, and you want to make sure that it stays with all the color and doesn't lose it over one session.
So I have a question for you. I didn't notice this when I bought them, but I did talking to you guys. Some of these paints say base, some of them say contrast, and some of them say layer.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? What's the difference?
So the wonderful thing about what Games Workshop has done with their Citadel paint line is they have given you literally the formula to do every model they make. So if you're going to do an ultramarine, you're going to get the base blue, a layer white, and a contrast to do anything that might have like a lot of depth and ridges on it. Contrast gives you 3 different density of pigment. Heavier pigment color will leach into the deep recesses of your model, giving it more of a shadow, but maintaining the color blend that you're looking for. The next pigmentation will kind of hit your mid parts on that model in the area you're doing that to give it a little bit lighter than the dark pigment, and then the lighter would stay on the edges. It's literally cheating in a bottle, the contrast paints. But the bases are the ones that are going to be on the bigger surfaces, the majority of the color of a certain model. The layer is to bring maybe a little contrast out from that, and also to hit some higher edges as well. That's
But
one way
there's
of
not
looking at it.
something chemically different about the paint that says, "Oh no, we got to use them in these orders."
Yeah,
Not
contrast a little
necessarily.
bit because they have more of a
Right.
medium, right? More of a medium that would let it more watery, if you will, but it's more of a painting medium, right? And then
almost a wash.
Yeah, almost like a wash. So a lot of people have been doing. You've heard the term slap chop at all? That's kind of like what the internet's been calling it. But you go black on the model, and then dry brush on top to bring out these kind of grays, and some people dry brush it gray and then white, and then the contrast right over top. And some people will be done right there. Maybe do another wash on top. But
it's crazy.
so they'll do that, and then the base is kind of like your traditional painting. Well, yeah, they'll do the base, layer up, do a little highlight, and then do a wash over top of that to add the deep recesses and things. So there's like two different camps, but it's kind of neat to cheat and use them, however you want. You can mix and match a little bit.
Yeah, and almost every major paint line has those kind of levels of paint now. So like matte black, and then let's say I would go. My layer would be Tyrian navy maybe, and then I could also use what is a counterpoint to contrast paints is Army Painter speed paints, and they do the exact same thing. So on the bottle you'll see it has a like a triangle or a trifecta of paint colors. The darker point here will be what goes in the recesses. This will be your mid-level edges, and then your high edges would be the lighter pigmentation that is all in this bottle, and they have the contrast. It's kind of like the water-based what's the word I'm looking for? I'm
Medium?
missing that. Medium, thank you. To make sure that it does the job of like a wash, but it gives you all the colors you want. And like I said, it's cheating. It just a lot of like long-term painters that have been doing this for ages that got the skill to take 4 or 5 gradients of a certain color to give you all this wonderful effect are like flipping tables. They can do it in one stroke of the brush. Nah.
and maybe perhaps directly to your question, I found that the base versus layer in that line, like the layer paints, it's a different opacity. So it takes more layers of that paint to get a uniform color. That's more liquid. You put the base down more quickly because it goes on thicker, and the layer goes on thinner, so you can do more controlled details.
Okay.
And then the watering down of the paints a little bit, like one technique, people just dip the tip into the water, get it there, and then they'll go across their thumb to kind of see what the viscosity is. And if it, looks good, then they can, get it onto the model without ruining the model. So that's kind of like a little cheater people use as well.
Mm-hmm.
Peter.
I'm not going to say anything.
All right, so let's get back to some wonderful, wonderful questions for you, Peter. Obviously,
Sure.
So we've talked about D&D, we've talked about Pokemon, Magic, all those wonderful things. We talked about the programming here on Gen Con TV and what people can expect and hope to see and everything. But there's something that you did after you sold WotC to Hasbro that was like a new passion of yours, which really relates well to this kind of, Gen Con TV. Did you go back to school for film?
Yes, I had I no background in film at all, and in 2011 I just got this wild hair, in 2012, and decided to go to film school. I'm pretty much on a lark, and I wasn't. I had started another company that thankfully people don't generally ask me about because it didn't do well.
Okay.
They can't all be winners, and so I was kind of that was like from 2005 to 2011. In addition to Gen Con, it was called Hidden City Games, and I think we had some good. We had a couple of great games, but didn't have the right business model supporting them, and so I was kind of depressed when that failed, and I just kind of like crawled into a cave for a year, and when I came out, I said, I'm just going to go to film school. I don't got anything else to do. So I went to film school, and it was a lot of fun. I don't, think of myself as some sort of auteur or anything like that, but I do just like getting out cameras and lights and, making screenplays. My buddy Steve Connard is a great screenplay writer, script writer.
Okay.
and we came up with this Actroki idea for doing screenplays based on role-playing moments, things that happen at the game table.
Mm-hmm.
And so so since 2012, it's over a decade now that I have been trying to figure this out, and I've got a studio in West Seattle where we do some live action filming there in addition to streaming. So
Yeah.
When we stream role-playing games for Actroki that are in studio, that's at this studio.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I love working with actors.
Mm-hmm.
I found that I like to say, my favorite days at work are days I get to work with actors. I'm a role player at heart, and I love talking about characters. I love talking about motivations and dramatic arcs. And it turns out that actors love talking about these things too.
Yeah. Again,
go bigger.
that's weird.
Yeah. I mean, if it's their character, especially, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun to work with actors and on set,
Mm-hmm.
and collaborate with them about what is this character going to do next? What are they feeling in this moment? What's their goal in this scene?
That's super cool. The I know that you've done some stuff with David Baxter of what is Legion M, right?
Yep.
And
He's been in a couple of my films. Yep.
Yeah.
Stefan Picorni and Ann Carlton have been in the on my set a number of times, and Sarah Moore, we talked about earlier, Sarah Stable.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of overlap. I'm sure you're familiar. I'm sure with Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, the Gamers, Darkness Rising, all the movies that they've done. Well, they're a Seattle-based company, and so we have it's a lot of overlap with them.
Nice.
In terms of cast and crew, and so we kind of feel like we're not alone here in terms of being interested in fantasy films.
Right. Well, it's one of those testaments of that gaming hits everywhere, because there are so many celebrities and actors that are fans of a lot of the things in our hobby, right? You got the guys from South Park are really big into like miniature gaming and board gaming.
Yeah.
You've got Joe Manganiello, who obviously loves Dungeons and Dragons. Matthew Lillard, who's from Lansing here, and
is he?
Yeah. What's kind of funny is last time I saw him, I was again at Gamehole Con, and I was just saying hi, and he's like, "So what are you playing this weekend?" I was like, "Oh, I'm not," and he's like, "You don't talk to me until you play a game." He's like, "Go play some D&D, buddy." I was like, "You got me."
That's funny.
Yeah, he's a good dude. But yeah, it's just interesting. And now with your passions of gaming and doing the production stuff, do you have anything like not streaming projects that you're working on that might be something we will enjoy in the future?
In terms of filming, I mean, we're always filming something that you won't see until, or I should say always, but we always have something in the pipeline. It takes 2 or 3 months to go from filming something to having it ready to show. And we did try and do a feature at one point, and it ended up with a lot of problems. But I believe it's salvageable, and so that is one thing that we're working on and have been for like over a year, and hoping that we'll be able to massage it to the point where I wouldn't be embarrassed to show it. I mean, the performance was great, the actors did great, but technical side of the film didn't. The green screen work, that's been a big part of the learning experience for me, is learning how to film against a green screen in a way where you can cleanly key out the green, replace it with art. It's trickier than it looks.
Okay. That I can believe it. I've only used a green screen a few times um, to do background stuff. I used to do a show that was basically comics on TV, where we reviewed all the different television shows like the Arrowverse, Preacher, and all these other shows that were based off comic books, Walking Dead.
Right.
Um, and we use a green screen to incorporate um, and seat us in different scenes.
Right.
Right, like we were part of the background actors of different scenes from like Walking Dead or whatever. Uh,
Right.
it was fun, but it was like you said, it's a learning curve if you aren't, using it all the time and
Yeah.
know all the different processes and keying it out. Like you said, I can see how that is and can be a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and so you already mentioned it a little bit that people like to talk about the characters, and that in our hobby there's a lot of world building going on.
Yes.
You do and have a world that you've built.
I do. Thank
Yeah.
you for bringing it up. Yes, a lot of our actor, and I glossed right over that, didn't I? Our actor Roki sessions are set in my fantasy world called Chaldea, which is a fantasy world that I started developing in 1980, just shortly after um, I started playing D&D. I quickly
Nice.
realized that the magic for this for me was in creating a world and
Mhm.
creating stories and stuff. And so started my own campaign, and I've been DMing in it ever since. So that's 40
Wow,
plus years,
that's awesome.
and mostly D&D, but also quite a bit of Burning Wheel
Hmm.
and some Fiasco.
Okay.
And it's, in fact, we have a backer kit happening right now called the Chaldea Gazetteer, which is digital maps of the world that
Okay.
that I drew at a very amateur level way back in the
Hmm.
80s, and over time have improved my skills to get them decent. And then for this, actually worked with a professional cartographer, Rob Lazaretti of TSR fame, uh,
Nice.
to make real professional maps.
Of
And
course.
yeah, it's and they turned out really, really nice. And so we're doing it. We're also doing that in conjunction with Moonbeam, which is a new streaming service that
Okay.
is under development, a Twitch competitor that
Okay.
uh, was started by Anthony Joyce Rivera and Patrick Conway. Ojit George is affiliated with it, and it is gonna it's in development now. Like, we're beta testing it right now, and or alpha testing, I think, actually, technically.
Okay.
And so it's coming out probably next year sometime, and I'm very excited about it. And we plan on supporting it very heavily here at Gen Con TV. So
Nice.
plant that bug in your ear. You might be interested in also streaming on Moonbeam at some point.
That would be pretty interesting. We also just so you know, Peter, one of the children that comes in for our Hoplite Heroes program here, which is our youth program for 9 to 16-year-olds. We're doing summer camps, and we do weekend day drops where the parents drop them off. They get to play D&D and other board games and stuff here. But their dad works for one of the local public television stations, and they want to put this show on their programming.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, what we do here, and then they'll put the pre-recorded content on the channel for the Lansing Channel 16, which I think is
Wow.
really crazy and awesome, and could be a big win for the channel and for all the other programming going on Gen Con TV. So we're excited for that potential.
That sounds
And
really cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Way to go.
But it's always fun to see the new streaming competitors pop up, and hopefully this one will be a true competitor. We love our Twitch family here, obviously, but
Yes.
everybody has their favorite platforms they like to watch content on.
Yeah, and I think that really it's time for there to be a credible competitor to Twitch,
Yeah.
and I think that Moonbeam has some really good ideas,
Nice.
especially for community. It's hard to have. There's no real community functionality on Twitch,
Right.
so Moonbeam is sort of a combination of Twitch and Discord. So you can get so instead of trying to use Discord as your community place and then get people to go over to Twitch to watch one of your shows, Moonbeam, you can do both of those in one spot. So that's the part that I'm most excited about.
Yeah.
And they also are promising much higher percentages of revenue to the streamers than what
nice.
Twitch does. So
nice. Yeah, content economy is a pretty hot topic right now. Yeah, very cool. The so Gen Con is 7 days away. Well, Wednesday is the pre-show. We'll be at the Diana Jones Awards. I think.
We will.
Yeah, and then the show begins. What are you most excited about this year, opposed to previous years?
Well, funny you should ask. It kind of takes us back to our earlier conversation about Dungeons and Dragons 50th anniversary. So I'm doing in person. We have a panel series that kind of mirrors the programming we did earlier, where we have 7 panels, one for each edition of Dungeons and Dragons, except for 5th. We have two for 5th.
Okay.
And so we on the panel, in each of these panels, we have somebody who, or at least 2 people who actually worked on that edition of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh wow!
And including like lead designers from AD&D 2nd edition onward. So Zeb Cook, Jonathan Tweet, Rob Hainso, Mike Merles, lead designers of 2 through 5. Also, really, really important people that worked on them, like Steve Winter and Mike Carr and Monty Cook,
right? Monty,
Skip Williams,
Skip,
Rodney Compton. It's really, really exciting. So a lot of overlap with the people that I had on the streaming series that we did before, but not 100% loyalty overlap, because it's people that will be at Gen Con as opposed to people who are near Seattle.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We so we also have a podcast called Citizen Gamer Podcast, and we've had Luke and Ed Greenwood, so Luke Gygax and Ed Greenwood on the podcast.
Oh, and Luke will be in our series too. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So we want to give you the invite to also come on the podcast at some point in the future as well, if you would have any interest in that.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun. And then so the panel series featuring all these wonderful people from the industry, from days of yore.
And
Zeb.
And we're gonna have a screening of the documentary from the same crew we were talking about before, Seth Polanski, Kelly Slagle, and Brian Stillman, of I Had the Beholder, which was about Dungeons and Dragons art history, Dungeons and Dragons. So that's going to be like a Thursday midnight showing.
Nice.
That'll be fun. I'll be there. So
nice. And I believe everybody that is watching, if you are not going to Gen Con, shame. No, I'm just kidding. No shame. But if you can't make it and you want to watch Eye of the Beholder, it is on Amazon. You can load it up and watch it. If you are I don't know if it got you, Peter, but there's a couple scenes in there that I got a little verklempt on. It's a little emotional, seeing things and how they came to be, and how big of an influence the game has been for many hundreds, millions of people. And they hit some really good topics on there.
Yeah, they did. They did a great job.
Yeah, they definitely pulled some heartstrings, and it's definitely worth watching. And if you're not going to be at Gen Con, it is on Amazon, and check it out. Seth and his wife and Brian are all amazing individuals. Yeah.
So, very talented documentarians and good people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I usually get dinner with Seth at Origins because he runs the film festival there. So
Yes.
yeah, it's super
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It's a funny little tight knit family. All right.
Yes.
That you only see at conventions.
Yes.
So besides the panels, is there anything else that you're super excited about, Peter,
Well,
as far as the show?
of course, the Diana Jones Award ceremony,
Yeah,
the party.
it is that.
Always, I mean, that's got to be the biggest industry hangout
Hmm.
there is in our industry. You know,
Yep.
there's we have. I don't know. My brain's always kind of like exploding with all the things happening, right? So
Right.
it's hard to bring.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be in this streaming series. I don't know if you've heard of it. That Tommy Gofton is doing
Hmm.
of the all the different campaign settings of D&D. His
Oh,
contribution to
yes.
celebrating 50 years of Dungeons and Dragons. He has organized a series, and he's got Ed Greenwood is helping him on this.
Mhm.
He's organized a series of events where a group of high-level characters go through all the different campaign
Right.
settings in the history of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And so he's running several of those at Gen Con, and I'm going to be playing in one of them with
Nice.
Lisa Teague DMing
Mhm.
in Ravenloft. So,
Ooh.
yeah.
All
So
right.
I'm looking forward to that.
That sounds amazing. I feel like we talked a little bit about this with Ed, that he's literally playing Elminster
Yes.
in this
Yes.
series, which is
Yes.
super cool. And I think is Stephen Picorni part of that as well?
I don't know. I wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
Right.
he's
Yeah.
so much fun to play with. I can't
Yeah.
imagine, anybody not inviting him if they had the
Right.
chance to, right? But
Yeah.
I haven't seen Stefano in a couple months, so
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what he has planned for Gen Con. I know he's going.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he would ever miss one unless, a runaway planet from outer space collided between the Earth and Moon.
But he missed last year, I think, because he got sick. I think he got COVID coming back
Correct.
from
Yep.
something else. I don't know.
Yep. I remember that.
Yeah, he was really bummed about it.
So some of the things I think my team, Mark and Will and I, are really excited about are getting to see the painting events that are going to be at the show.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
sure. We always have great painting events
Hmm.
that are really popular and sell out. I have a couple of really good friends that live in Kansas now, Douglas and Carol Bailey, and they're always upset because they didn't get into all the painting events they wanted to.
Yeah, there's a lot, and it's a lot of fun to go up on the mezzanine where the painting takes place and see the showcases with everybody's painted models and stuff. So for those of you attending, make sure you hit that spot, get into some of the painting events. They do some really cool speed paint events, which are super fun. And then let's see. I hear rumor that there's actually a booth at the show this year that hasn't been there before. Something to do with Gen Con TV as a booth?
Yeah, Gen Con TV.
What?
So it's yeah. We have a booth. It's not it's in the entertainer section. It's not
Mhm.
technically a booth. It's
Mhm.
I guess it's a table. It's like
Okay.
a mini booth, like a phone
Okay.
booth. I don't know. Anyway,
Perfect.
Sarah's organizing it, and
Nice.
so Gen Con TV will have a booth presence this
Nice.
year.
And we got to figure out where that's at. I got to ask Sarah, where is this
It-
entertainment space?
Yeah, I don't even know where it's at. But we're in. I think we're table K.
Okay.
K for killer. I don't know.
Or clandestine,
Off-
but with a K.
Yeah.
No, it should be a lot of fun. I know that I got to actually give Sarah the times that we can kind of hang out at the booth to help promote Path of the Brush and all the other programming and
Yeah.
get people, to get aware if they aren't already aware of it.
Yeah.
K is for kick arse. Thank you for that, Lore Master.
There you go, Lord Master Ski.
Very cool. Again, for everybody watching, if you haven't done so, one of the great things that you can do to help support Gen Con TV is hit that heart, hit that bell so that you are following and get notifications of whenever Gen Con TV goes live. Also, you can subscribe if you haven't done that as well. And if you have Amazon Prime and you have not yet used your Prime membership free subscription to one channel, you can use that for Gen Con TV. Every little bit helps and brings all the awesome to the platform for you the viewer. And there's a lot of awesome to be had. So if you can do any of those things, please do.
Yeah, I really thank you. I really appreciate that because anything you can do to help my business partners think that I'm really working hard when I'm playing Civ, computer versus machine. Great.
Live that dream.
Yeah, that's right. It is the dream. I mean, this is what here we are sitting here painting
Right.
on
Having a good time. Yeah,
I mean,
right.
this is pretty crazy, guys.
Hey, thanks for those. What are those owlbear babies? Those are sick. Thank you. Those are
Wow.
cool. On-screen celebration. Very cool. Thank you. That's what I was curious, Peter. I don't know if you know or have done anything with these, but we have our bits, the channel bits that people earn by watching,
Yeah.
and then they can spend them on different things, like highlight my message, unlock a random sub emoji. I feel like we need to put some really challenging and entertaining uh, bit things on here so people can spend those things. I have 23,000
Yeah.
for Gen Con TV.
We're gonna make something. Obviously, whatever we put on there, it's gonna have to have a high price, or else we're gonna go bankrupt supplying you whatever they are.
Well, it could be.
I'd like 10,000 marbles, please.
Well, what it could be is like, as an example, we're on here for an hour 45. A lot of times we might forget to hydrate. They could spend a couple things and remind us, or there's other things but it's things that we would, as the hosts and content creators here, have to do when they hit us with one of these things.
Time to hydrate.
That sounds dangerous, Rick. Are you sure you want to explore this path?
I honestly, I think I would have a lot of fun with it. Like if because I look at it too, it's like we could make it, if we did it for Path of the Brush, we could make it kind of like, what was that cooking show where they just mess with each other.
Paint splattering stuff. Yeah.
It's like,
well, I'm open to all the ideas, Rick. I mean, so you're gonna meet, Lord Masterski that's there in chat. You're gonna meet him at Gen Con.
Yes.
Yeah. You should. He's my new marketing guy. So
yes.
Yeah. So get him to. You guys come up with some ideas.
Well,
I'm not very clever about that sort of thing. If
you think about like Cutthroat Kitchen, right, where they'd be like, you can only cook now with this one tool and stir and do everything with this one thing. They could be like, you need to paint with a version of red for the next 10 minutes. I'll be like, oh crap, I had no intention of ever putting red on this model. Now I got to think outside the box. Where am I going to put red for and do something with that?
Or for like 1,000,000 points, it's just a button that says suplex party.
Jesus. I would be scared because I feel like there's probably somebody out there that has 1,000,000 points. All right. Or I'm right-handed, so I paint right-handed. Maybe I paint with your offhand for the next 5 minutes. Something some fun stuff like that. Yeah, and it would provide some interaction with the audience.
Right.
It is a slippery slope, though.
Go for it, Rick.
Yeah, I just think it'd be fun because
I think it sounds great.
This is one of the things I'm actually doing at Gen Con this year. I'm working with the company Weird, who makes Malifaux and Through the Breach. We are doing a painting event where people are going to get to paint a miniature, but me and another member of the Weird team are going to be giving them challenge. They get 15 minutes to start their painting. After 15 minutes, we'll be using the Malifaux fate cards. And as a fate card is revealed, something will have to happen. They may have to put the brush in their mouth and paint like this. Yeah. or
Which
paint
end?
right, or paint with their offhand. We got these little like vices that hook to the table that they might have to put the brush in and then hold their model upside down and try to paint it. All sorts
Oh
of
my God.
fun things like that. It's just a fun way to engage with people that, it doesn't have to be a serious painting event. We're just there to have a lot of fun and just enjoy time with the community. So if you haven't checked it out, for those watching, if you're going, I believe there's a few spots left open in that. I think we're doing 32 spots. So
Right.
yeah, super fun stuff.
Great.
Very cool. All right, we are actually at our time, Peter.
Yeah, I got to go do another show.
Yeah,
on, on this channel.
on this channel.
Get a drink, get a
Weird.
bathroom break. We're back
So-
at it.
So, Peter, thank you so much for your time, and all the things that you do for our industry and the community of gaming. We know that you are a champion for all things tabletop, and we salute you for that.
Thank you.
And for everybody that's been watching in the channel, if you've chatted or just been hanging out watching, we appreciate every single one of you. Again, please subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, so that you can never miss any of these wonderful programs that are here on Gen Con TV. And if you're going to be at Gen Con, make sure to stop by. If you see us, go to the booth, say hello, stop us, shake hands, take selfies, whatever you want to do. We are available for all that. And we thank every one of you, because we obviously, without Peter and without you, the viewer, we wouldn't be here to be able to do these things that we obviously enjoy very much. And on that note, Peter, have a wonderful day, rest of your day.
Thank you, Rick.
And
Thanks for having me on the
Peter.
show.
Yeah.
Will, Mark, nice to hang out with you.
Awesome.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, a
And-
legend. This is great.
a legend. And for the rest of you out there, until we see you again, I'm Rick.
I will.
I'm Mark.
Peter.
There we go. And we'll see you at a friendly local game store.